Why is your mouth making that noise? Drop it. Drop it. Drop it. Drop it. Drop it. That has got to be uncomfortable. Drop it. Drop it. Drop it. Release. Drop it. Drop it. Drop it. Drop it. Drop it. Leave it. Leave it. Why is your mouth making that noise? Drop it. Drop it.
Good morning, everybody. We are live from the Hive. Hello, hello. I hope you are all doing well this morning. Did the puppers drop the cicada? It finally did, but it was adorable. He was trying to be coy about it. Like, what are you talking about, Mom? I don't got anything in my mouth. What are you talking about, Mama? But it was not working for that mama, for that pup mama, because she knows her dog. She knows that dog's behavior. That was in Australia. That dog was so cute. The way its eyes were like looking, yeah, it gets me every time. Good morning, everybody who has popped in so far. Uh, Thank you for joining us. We are live from the Hive this morning. As per regular, I am doing Brie Mania today. My thumbnail is a homage to Germania. There's a reason for that, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But let me just say hi to everybody and get things going this morning. I'm so happy that we all showed up for the live stream. Looks like Quill is out there, which I don't get to see Quill all the time in my live stream. So good morning, Quill. But we have some regular faces in the house. We got Cosmic Kyle. Hello, gorgeous. We have Greg Hartwig and Sandy and Ring and Jaded Atheist. Good morning, everybody. So happy that you've decided to join me today for Live from the Hive. We've got a lot of stuff to go over today. Actually, housekeeping of all things are taking the forefront today because a lot of stuff happening, like I guess in the meta is what the philosopher would call it, in the meta of my life. Yeah, so and when I say my life, I just mean my YouTube presence, of course. From obviously, I I've decided to take up the mantle, being, I am a voice. I have a voice. I have a voice. I have an audience. Maybe it's not a big audience, but it's an audience nonetheless. So I am here to represent the trans community on YouTube, the skeptical community. I'm the trans representation of the skeptics in the community, and I'm okay with that. I will lock horns now. I am at a place psychologically and emotionally where I can handle those engagements now. If people want to argue with me about trans stuff, I can do that. I'm learned. I've or what's the terminology? Learned. I'm learned on the topic now. I've done hours and hours and hours of research into the topics of transgenderism and the state of that and what that represents scientifically. So I am ready. If somebody wants to challenge me on those topics, I'm ready to have that discussion now. I wasn't before, and I would step away from it, but I am now. So, I mean, that in mind, uh, Jesus is Lord, Jill, recently challenged me to a debate on gender. Bring it on, Jill. Bring it on. I will crush you. You don't understand the basics of science. You definitely don't understand what gender even means. You conflate it with sex and stop right there and don't have anything else to stand on. So I would absolutely crush you. Unfortunately, now. Jill's not the only apologist that I've found myself engaging with here lately. I've been kind of spreading my branches out. But this next little tidbit of housekeeping doesn't actually come from the apologist actively engaging me. It's just something I'm proud of because it was kind of funny. So last night I had a short that just a silly short. I'm sure you've all seen it, of with the spider sitting between my cleavage right here. had the spider crawling on me and it stopped right there and was like at rest. I'm like, you know what? I was make a little video of that, and it was like 7 seconds. That video has 9K views now. It's kind of wild, actually, that it got so much traction. And I will tell you that most of the comments are not something I would even feel comfortable sharing on here because they're really transphobic. Because I'm wearing my trans necklace, right? I'm wearing my oh, you can't even see me. Hold on. Let's pull this up side by side. Oh, not like that. This. Yeah. Wearing my trans flag necklace. So in the video, people really focused on that instead of the spider, just the fact that I'm trans and have a spider. Someone made a Silence the Lambs reference, like I'm Buffalo Bill, like I'm making a skin suit. I have freaking a fabulous body. Why would I grab somebody else's body and slap it over myself all haphazardly like Buffalo Bill when I'm sexy as hell? I don't understand. I am very into like body confidence right now, especially as a trans woman. Something I have to do. I don't have a choice. But I get a lot of positive feedback. So to put it bluntly, I'm proud of ratioing Ken Hovind last night at the 5-hour point, like phenomenally ratioing him. And it's not the basics of, I just had more views than you. I had 9K views on a 7-second video with 791 subscribers. Ken Hovind had 1,487 views on a 47-minute video with 208,000 subscribers. I ratioed Hovind in an order of magnitude this morning, or last night, I mean, by putting a spider between my boobs. I'm going to count that as a win. I just thought that was something funny to share. I didn't go out looking for it. I'm actually covering this video that's right here in my creation watch today. So I just happened to notice this when I was editing for this video, when I was going scrubbing through and watching the topics here so we can go over it later today. And I happened to notice that, hey, 9K, 1.4K, or I'll give him a 1.5K. It doesn't really make a difference. But so I took a screenshot of it and just had to come out and brag about it. Just a second. I clear. I still have that cough. It's been about 2 weeks now. I don't know what I'm dealing with exactly. At least the runny nose and the snot basically stopped, but you know, the cough is persevering, and yeah, 9K is fantastic. I wish it was 9K on something where I actually put out anything of content. It's just instead of something just as silly as having a spider crawl on me. But you do what you do to get the views. I need the views. I would love to get monetized before the end of the year. I'm close to, by this video, I mean, the 9K views that's not all that came a fruition from that. I went from like, how many subs do I have now? Just a second. I went from like 750 some subs to 790. I actually went up to 797, but YouTube has adjusted it back down to 790 now this morning. But I'm pretty close to 800 at this point, so I'm ready to hit that monetization level. Let's see where I am on that. I got my dashboard pulled up here. Okay, so 790 right now of 1,000 required. The watch hours, I have 3,931 public watch hours of the 4,000 needed. So we're right on track. Potentially, if I can muster 200 new subscribers in the next 2.5 months. Yeah, we could definitely get the Hive at least, if not monetized, at least with the 1,000 subscribers to be on the way to monetization. I think that's definitely a goal that we could pursue as a swarm together. So yeah, if you like what I'm doing, I would not recommend if you're going to promote my content. I'm not saying you have to, but if you're going to promote my content, I wouldn't do live from the Hive because it's sort of a variety show, a compilation of all the stuff. But maybe the edited videos. I am back out to putting edited videos out. If you see Cryptic Corners back on Friday nights, I've got them scheduled out until December. I've got Creation Watch scheduled out until late November, and I have HiveScience news at least a couple of weeks out at this point. So there is videos coming out. Some of them, again, I'm going by the same standard I did before. It's going to be, if it's over 10 minutes, it's going to make premiere and we're going to hang out and watch it. If it's under 10 minutes, we will probably just have it released and you can watch it at your leisure. But that it generally only happens with the HiveScience news content, the Creation Watch, and the I don't think I think Creation Watch has gone less than 10 minutes before, but I don't think CryptoCorner has gone less than 10 minutes in a long time. So we'll pretty much always premiere on Friday night. So if you're free on Friday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern, come hang out with me and Cryptic Corner. Maybe share the video if you see me sharing it on social media. You can plug it for me. So see about getting this channel up to the thousands. I just want to get over that 1,000 hump. That's not too much of a goal, is it? I've been going for 2 years. I would do the last 6 months or so. I really haven't been pushing that hard, but I've been dealing with my personal stuff. Sometimes you gotta take a step back and deal with personal stuff, and that's okay. We all have to do that. Okay, like I said, housekeeping is going to be a long run tonight. So as far as that goes, I went over ratioing Hovind. The next thing I want to talk about is there's like I don't want to say he's a new apologist on the scene. I've just become aware of him. I've seen a lot of people engaging with him recently. It's this end time teacher, and that's the reason I have this cute thumbnail here. If you like that, that's my Germania thumbnail. So what I'm going to do, and sorry if you hear me drinking the coffee, when I'm going back through and editing these, I hear myself taking drinks of the coffee and it drives me crazy, but some people aren't bothered by that. And it's just, maybe it's just a me thing. But I'm not going to mute myself every time I take a drink. And that would just get redundant. I mute myself when I cough. Anyway, so this end time teacher guy, right? The only one I watched the full thing of was with Gurr. However, I did watch part of his engagement with Skylar Fiction. That went rough. That went bad. Skylar was not putting up with him. Skylar is a passionate ally, and when End Time Teacher decided that they were going to discuss social issues, or when Skylar decided he was going to hold his feet to the fire on social issues, it came unglued. End Time Teacher would want my execution, I'm sure. I don't know if End Time Teacher even knows I'm trans, though, so that doesn't, I'm not sure. But yeah, so I watched him engage with Knock a little bit. It was engaging, I guess you'd say. So Knock it didn't go quite as dumpster fire as it did with Skylar, but it didn't go as good. When Gurr talked to him, though, he kind of kept him on the topics that I would be interested in engaging with. So that's why I went with the Gurr thumb here, because I actually last night I went out. So it's a 12K flat Earth. Okay, Jason Torrens comments in the comment section on Gurr's stream. Anyway, where was I? I lost my train of thought reading that. I just didn't know what they were talking about. 12K, 12,000, I guess. Anyway, so I actually went over to his channel last night and popped into a live stream. I was just only in there for a few minutes, and I would just share it with you, but he like deletes it. He deleted the video like right after we were done. I don't think he put it back up. Actually, I can check real quick. Nope, not that one. Where are you at, End Time Teacher? There you are. Here, I'll just share it with you. Y'all can see what I'm doing. I'm just navigating. Boop, boop, doop, We're going to share that one. There we go. Okay, yeah, this is his channel. Yeah, but we talked last night about it's around midnight. So yeah, he did not keep it up. He definitely took it down. But I talked to him about some of that. Or I told him I wanted to sit down and talk to him about some of that same stuff that Gurr had brought up in the conversation. And yeah, I'm sorry, you guys are distracting me in the side chat now. Coughing again. Hold on. Sorry about that. That's nasty. It's like right in my throat. Kind of tickly. Yeah, so he didn't share it because it was just on the tail end of him engaging with somebody else, and maybe he had a bad engagement with them, and that's the reason he took it down. I don't know, or maybe even after I talked to him and left, and then he had a bad engagement with somebody else. I don't think he took it down from his engagement with me. However, regardless, we are going to be looking for that in the future. I did tell him that my interest in conversating with him would be about some of the fantastical claims of Genesis and things like that. So I was very clear that I didn't want to engage him about social issues, modern social issues. I want to engage beliefs. I also my main thing I would like to talk to him about is about the migrations of people groups and the genetic DNA tracking of the movement. Because we've mapped the entire human genome. We know all the haplogroups of all mankind and where they currently reside, or where they resided at the beginning of the Anthropocene, and how they diversified and migrated, and who's related to who, and how closely they're related. When they moved to what area. We have a very robust record of human travel and migration, and how people groups got to where they are in current times. And it throws a big monkey wrench in End Time Teachers narrative about the origins of the Israelites, claiming that the Israelites were a dark skinned sub-Saharan people group, which is completely unfounded. But there was a couple of things that he has done and put out that I wanted to go over. So this is actually going to be a little bit of housekeeping before CryptoCorner. I hope you all are fine with this. This is just, I wish I had kept a timestamp on this one. I did, but then I watched more of it and watched it again. I'm trying to find where I was looking for. It's yes, I'm Bree cosplaying as Gur today. And I'm sorry for if I'm telling too much about your personal life, but Gur is actually wearing a red sweater that shows off his chest, and a black poofy vest. Gur is wearing the same thing, so I'm absolutely cosplaying as Gur right now. Yeah, okay, here we are talking some flat earth stuff. This is what we're just really briefly, Gur. I'm not gonna watch the whole thing, just a little bit of your interview here. It's not the only way to find out what's inside a heavenly body is to dig down and like see it with your bare eyes. There are other ways to make observations. There are better ways to make observations, more efficient ways to make observation, and definitely more fiscal ways to make observation than to actually physically, visually see it, especially when it comes to things that are buried miles and miles beneath the earth. Kilometers. I'm going to say kilometers because I'm a science nerd, but for my Americans, it's miles. Anyway, so every time I saw the thumbnail for the live stream, I was tricked into thinking it was Gurr. That was my goal. Morning, Amanda. Yeah, you don't have to actually visually see the center of the earth to know that what it's made, its composition and stuff. There are other tools that we can use, other observation methods, and this is scientific. We do a multitude of different methodologies to including seismic pulses, where they send sound waves down through the earth. We can use mathematical modeling to calculate the by the nature of the orbit and the rotation of the planet what its overall density is. There are multiple ways that we know that the inside of the earth is a molten iron core, other than just visually seeing it. Sorry, I wanted to move his side chat off the way because it's distracting me. So many beautiful people in there in the evenings that don't catch my shows in the morning. So I keep wanting to respond to them. Seeing them over there. Jason Torn. I love Jason Torn. Jason Torn and Pale Blue Mama, Amanda, are my favorite climate scientists in the whole world. They're probably two of the smartest people that I know. So I do love engaging with them. So Jason was in Gur's chat and Amanda's in my chat. So we got all the brain power on this end when it comes to things that are being claimed about the planet. I mean, climatology in itself only works on a globe model. It's an entire field of science, that depends on the idea that the Earth is a globe, and these the climate zones are dispersed in such a way that they are circling the Earth, basically controlled by jet streams that are subtly influenced by the spin of the Earth, where we are in our axis and in our solar orbit, and where we are in other sets of our cycles as well, including where the tilt is and all that good stuff. So yeah, there is there's that cough again. Hold on. Sorry about this. I don't know if I'm going to edit out all this coughing I'm doing this morning. Good grief. Let's go on and see what he has to say about the center of the Earth. It's not so visible observation, digging down and actually reaching the center of the Earth is not the only observation that is non-speculative. There are other methodologies of observation that we can make that are not visual, that are not speculative, mathematically sound models, and that means that they're true. ETT. All right, so that was just a little peek at his conversation with Gurr. I did have just to just show who I'm engaging with and what ideas I'm engaging with, because I know a lot of people want me to hold this guy to the fire on LGBTQ issues. I do not want to come into an interaction with this individual with that topic on hand. I'm not saying that I will not engage him about those issues in the future, but I am looking for people to engage about young Earth creation, flat Earth ideology, or I keep saying ideology. I'm looking for people to engage with that, and I understand that a lot of people don't, that they don't approve of these people or approve of platforming these people. I am more about platforming these ideas, and I'm very clear about that when I engage with them. This is like Otangelo. I will engage Otangelo. I will have Otangelo on my channel, and I will go on debates with Otangelo. I will go into other people. I will go into Robbie's stream. I will go into Gur's stream and engage with Otangelo, because despite the bad ideas about the social issues and things, the person is willing to present the young Earth model to me and engage me about it, so I can have those ideas present on my channel, and I can explain what the issue is with them, or why they are not scientifically sound. So I need to be able to engage with these people. And I'm sorry if that upsets some folks, that, hey, Bree's engaging with this transphobe. Hey, Bree's engaging with this homophobe. Bree's engaging with this racist, even in the case in time teacher. But the fact of the matter is, in order to engage with these ideas, we have to engage with these people. We don't have to engage with those social issues every time. I'm not interested in the social issues with in time teacher, at least not at this point. There is a root, there is a base level, there is a foundation to what he believes about the world and how it works. I want to understand that foundation and what it's rooted in. Yeah, right. You got to play ball if you're going to dunk. That's right. I have to go in. I have to get into the pit with these people. So I'm not trying to upset anybody. Um, I don't think I've lost any followers or anything because of it, but I have had people reach out to me privately to let me know that they are being harassed for I shouldn't say harassed, being uh, put down, I guess, or made to feel like they are a transphobe ally of some kind, because they are engaging with these people. But we have to engage with these people, and it wasn't even the people that are reaching out to me are not necessarily even the ones engaging. They're just the ones providing a platform for these people to be engaged on. No, if we're going to combat these ideas, we have to bring them into the light. Anyway, that's all I had to say about that. One more little clip about one more little clip from In Time Teacher, and then we're going to move into Cryptic Corner. Okay. I start with Cryptic Corner, but I'm considering this part of housekeeping, and when it comes to housekeeping, I like to. Why does this look all weird? When it comes to housekeeping, I like to do that at the top of the show. Okay. Okay, so this is the sun and the moon are local to Earth. So let's explore that that claim. Okay, and it'd be great if I had like an astrophysicist in my side chat to get a good chuckle about that claim. Do I have any astrophysicists out there? Anybody with a astrophysicist background who wants to chime in about the distance of the sun? He says we observe that the sun is local. There's an astrophysicist right below you, big zebra. That's all right. I'm with you. I'm on the same page. I can bullshit my way through astrophysics. I actually know quite a bit about it, but I've not gone to the school to make any kind of claim that I have those credentials. But I lean heavily on the people who do. Like I said, I got Amanda there, Jason Torn. When it comes to geology, I tend to lean on people like Jorge, Steve Bauman. So yeah, when it comes to phylogeny, though, that's kind of my bread and butter. I don't lean on anybody too much for that. The moon is close to the clouds relative to the sun and how far it is from the clouds. Clouds and clouds can be layered without the moon being local, and the ones that are uh, directly in the light of the what do they call them, moonbeams. But those clouds are going to get lit up brighter than the ones that are not. Maybe I'm misunderstanding your claim, your observation here, but it's something we could talk about at some point. No sound? Are you kidding me? Let me see. How long have I been going on with no sound? Let me see if I can't fix that. Sorry, just a second. No morning, not a morning goes by without. Where's the sound option? We're going to try doing it this way. Let's try again. All right, from the top.
Right at nighttime. And I was looking at the moon for a few minutes, and
Okay.
like 230 some miles away from the
Can you
Earth,
hear it now? Let me
what
know.
we were told in school. But that is not only incorrect according to the scriptures, but that's also incorrect according to our physical observations. Say, for an example, I was just out yesterday.
So I make this excuse. I shouldn't still be figuring out this, but I guess when I have to share just the tab to share the audio. I have to share just the tab instead of sharing the whole screen, because I keep everything separate on a different Chrome tab or Chrome window, and I was hoping to be able to just cycle through them, but I guess I'll have to share them one at a time in order to share audio with you, which is fine. It's just an extra step I have to take. Thank you for hanging in there with me. I know I am famous for my tech issues at this point, at least since since June, since I've been kind of reestablishing myself in a location. I've been tech issues.
Day right at nighttime. And I was looking at the moon for a few minutes, and I'll show you a picture of it later. But you happen to notice that right next to the moon, right when the clouds directly underneath the moon are
Okay, and I'm going to listen to this claim again because I think maybe I misunderstood it before. So let's hear what he says.
significantly more lit up compared to the other clouds in the sky around those clouds, right? So that shows you that the moon must be relatively.
So the clouds directly in front of the moon are lit up brighter than the other clouds in the sky when you're looking at the moon. That's also your point of view and seeing where the light refracts through the water droplets of the clouds to light them up. Because the reason the clouds light up is because when the light reflects off the moon, or reflects off the moon back towards the earth, hits that cloud. Those are tiny little water droplets that just disperse the light in different directions, and that's why those clouds light up. At that point, the light is dispersed again out into it to hit other areas, but it's only going to disperse so far before it dissipates back into the atmosphere. At which point, the other clouds outside of that range would not reflect as much, or it would get dimmer and dimmer the further away you get from it. This is just optical. Is this optics? I mean, really, it's optics and light refraction, basic stuff.
Close to those clouds directly underneath it for it to be significantly more bright than the clouds that are little further away from that area, right? They're much more dimmer than the clouds directly underneath the moon. That shouldn't happen if the moon is 230 some miles away from the Earth. And then
That shouldn't happen. Why shouldn't that happen? Why shouldn't the light refract off the clouds and dissipate?
dealing with the sun as well, and I'll show you a picture later in this video. There's hot spots from the sun, right? If you watch a high altitude um, weather balloon footage, from say 100,000 foot, often you'll see that underneath the sun there's a hot spot on the clouds. Now, that doesn't make any logical sense of how that could happen if the sun is 93 million miles away from the Earth that we live on. The only way that could happen is if the sun is local to the Earth that we stand on.
Where are you? What are you basing that claim on? What I guess parallax and such are you getting this information from? When you see light come through the clouds and scatter in all different directions, again, that's the refraction. The light goes through the clouds. The clouds are tiny water droplets, basically tiny little kaleidoscopes, sending the sunbeams off in different directions. Obviously not as crazy as a kaleidoscope, which will, send it in these high angles, but it does send it in sort of lower angles, dispersed around the area when it goes through the clouds. So yeah, that's normal. We're going to give this just a couple more seconds, and we're going to move into Cryptic Corner, because it's about 10 after now.
And I'm going to show you in the scriptures where it supports the idea that the sun is close to the Earth. It's local to the Earth. And that's
no one's denying that the scripture was it claims that these scriptures were written like before the common era. These were written mostly in this stuff. Joshua, when was Joshua written? Does anybody any of my biblical scholars know? But at the time, yeah, they would have definitely thought the sun was local, and they wouldn't have assumed that it was the distance that it is. They probably would have accepted dozens of miles or hundreds of miles for the distance of the sun, just based on their observations. That's why it's so important to utilize these other tools. It's like you were saying about digging to the center of the Earth in order to prove that there's a core. There are other methods for observation, because our physical observations, as limited little primates crawling around on a ball floating through space, we're not built to understand these things or to be able to observe these things. You don't need to know that the Earth is a giant sphere in order to function. So your senses are not developed to pick up on that. Actually, they're developed to ignore that. You are it's like even evolution. Look at animals live on a plane. They don't have curvature to their pupils because we are so small on such a tiny little patch of this giant sphere that everything is, for all intents and purposes, to our observations or to the observations of animals, flat. That's why goats have sideways pupils. That's why antelope have sideways pupils, because they live on an open plain where everything's flat. It doesn't reflect on the shape of the planet, just our what we need in order to survive, what we need in our ability to perceive the world around us in order to survive. That's all we need. You don't need the physiological features of your anatomy to perceive the shape, size, and momentum of the Earth. You don't need to be able to feel the Earth spinning. As a matter of fact, that would be detrimental to you functioning on this planet. You don't need to feel the rotation or the orbit of the Earth as it moves through space. It's not something that's going to be beneficial to your survival. So you don't have a system in your body to allow you to feel that. There are organisms that have for instance, a sea lion's inner ear, or seal's inner ear, has developed to not pick up so much on the gravity and give that sense of downwardness, because they spend so much time in a three-dimensional environment of the ocean that having that perception of down makes it so that they are not able to maneuver quite as effectively, because it's what gives you, like when you spin, makes you dizzy, makes your inner ear get all out of whack, because you have like a little gyroscope, well, it's not a gyroscope, it's like liquid in your ear that works in a similar manner to a gyroscope that keep you in balance. And when you spin, that's why the world rocks all back and forth and you can't get your footing when you get dizzy. That's why you get nauseous. But seals don't have that, because in their world they live in, they do not need to perceive that natural force in order to function in their environment. And it's detrimental if they did feel it, so they don't. That's how this works. Now, of course, when it comes to something like the shape of the earth, there are organisms that are aware of that we are not. There are birds that navigate via the electromagnetic sphere that encircles the earth. Speaking of electromagnetic spheres, if you guys are wanting me to cover electric universe at some point in the future for Cryptic Corner, let me know. All right, so we are going to wrap this up here. I may revisit this when after I engage with the person, but that was our housekeeping, the longest one I've ever had, I think. Just going over what's going on in the hive. I am trying to reach out more and engage with more people on the other side of the aisle. So look for more of that. And yeah, we are going to, though, go ahead and move into Cryptic Corner. Let's see here. I want to start. Yeah. Okay. And again, let me know if you can hear this, okay? Because yeah. Share audio. There we go. Okay, so this was from this was released on the 10th, put on the 10th by Mr. What's his name? Mr. MBB333. He does astronomical and weather phenomena. This guy would make you want to pull your hair out if you are an astrophysicist. Let's hear what he has to say about the sighting from the ISS, though. Mysterious craft follows the ISS.
Flying machine that if you're going to see in this video has features. This is the original video.
I'm going too fast. Yeah, I'm going
video as I received it from EH. And this is from October the 6th of 2022, just a few days ago. And you're going to see this object stay in the field of view. I'm not going to play the entire 7 minutes because you really can't see anything but that right there. But I will fast forward it through the original segment that was shared with me once again by EH, and it clears the field of view in about 7 minutes. But I've got it fast forward 4 times, so it's going to be much faster than that because I want to get to the part where I can zoom.
You all can hear okay, I hope. What we're looking at in this video is this little shape here, this little white or gray. I mean, it looks white because the way the sun's reflecting off of it, because it's albedo. But yeah, that's what we're watching.
Zoom in and show you guys the features on this craft, and you're going to be able to see a flashing light down inside this craft. Very bizarre. That's where the live feed paused. I left that in there. I could have taken it out, but I wanted to leave everything the same the way EH sent it to me, and I haven't even zoomed in or anything right here. This is how it entered the field of view over here on the far left.
Hi, Kendra.
And right here, you can tell it's definitely some sort of a craft, but you can't see any details or at least any specifics. We're going to go
Hey, John Hudson.
in real tight on this thing, and it almost looks like it was maybe taking photos of the space station. You're going to see a repetitive flash down inside this craft. The top of it has what looks like a octagon on the top of it that's hollow, that has some sort of a light flashing down in the center of this thing. The front has some sort of what looks like a half moon on the front of it, maybe some sort of a navigation device.
So I don't know if has anybody else seen this yet. I just saw this for the first time when when Mr. M, I keep forgetting his name because it's just a bunch of letters, Mr. MBB333, when they presented it, is the first time I saw this footage. So if you're familiar with this footage,
you're going to see it accelerate right here, right towards the end of its field of view. See it right there take off? It accelerates. So that tells me it has a propulsion system.
Now we're
Now I'm
zooming
going to
in.
take it back to Earth.
We're zooming in on it. Get kind of a basic shape. Looks largely spherical with extension off of the front end of it there. So
Original speed, and we're going to see a flashing light. You're going to see surface features. Again, you can't make this stuff up. This was following the space station just a few days ago on October the 6th. Here's when it first entered the
on October the 6th. We're going to have to explore that. Hang in there.
field of view. And again, I'm going to kind of fast forward just a little bit because you really can't see too much. We're able to go in really close and you can see features on this flying machine. Those are the pauses that were in the actual live feed. Like I said, I could have taken them out, but I left them in just for authenticity purposes. This original video, you're
I don't doubt you, Mr. MBB333.
going to start to see the flashing light right there. See it? Those aren't clouds or anything. That is a light that is cycling inside this flying machine.
I wonder if it matches up with some FFA regulations. What do you guys think?
Know if that's the power source of this flying machine, because after we saw it accelerate, that tells us that this thing has some sort of a propulsion system on it. It could be a lens, maybe some sort of a camera that was taking images of the space station. I have no idea. I'm just trying to think outside the box here, because it's not every day that
And you guys will come to find that we'd probably need to think inside the box with this one.
you see these things flying above the Earth, visible from the International Space Station. Mary Hall sends in a lot of excellent observations from the ISS live cam. This one here is quite unique. I will say it has, again, as you're going to see some sort of a...
And then not to break anybody's cycle of disbelief, but there is a lot of stuff floating around up there that the ISS can catch on camera. Sometimes this is not space debris.
a feature on the front. Don't know what it is, but it almost looks like some sort of a navigation device, maybe some sort of a radar, a sonar. Then there's something right there below my cursor. See it right there? There's an independent white object there. And then that center looks like an octagon. And then the light that's flashing is inside of the octagon. It's not necessarily on top. It's coming from inside the craft. The backside over here that looks dark, those look like some sort of windows. I don't know. It's difficult to say. That's just a wild guess, but they're dark and they almost...
You can't tell the propulsion behind it though. They're right to the left of where his mouse is. Watch right here. There's a little
bit of a shine to them. Here's where it takes off. See it?
Yeah.
That's got a propulsion system on it. Now we're going in even closer. So here we go. And you're going to be able to see.
I will say I appreciate this because I don't have the software to do all this zoom, and I do, but not on this computer here. When I get my old computer back, I will have that software again, and we'll start doing deeper dives into these where I can do some measurements and slow-mo and all that good stuff. But for right now, I'm very grateful that this channel has already done all that stuff for us. So thank you, Mr. MBB333.
Kind of down inside that octagon that's on top that allows us to look inside this craft. This is when it first entered the field of view. And again, it was a little out of focus. You really couldn't tell what it was. You could tell it was some sort of a craft, but it gets into focus the farther we move it ahead. So I'm going to go ahead and take it forward up to, I don't know, right around in here. Okay, here we go. This is when this front feature becomes more visible. There's the secondary,
and this is a good
feature that's much smaller behind the feature here in the front. Here's the octagon, and you can clearly see the light flashing inside the octagon. That's down inside that flying machine, whatever it may be. Looks dark over here on this side. Obviously, it's on the opposite side of the sun, and they at times appear to have like a shine to them, like maybe they're windows, or maybe there's some sort of solar panels. I don't know. You can clearly see the light down there flashing over.
Yeah, we'll have to find out about that, won't we?
And over again. And it doesn't appear to be on the same cycle. It's just kind of random. You'll see it flash, and then it won't flash for a couple seconds. Then it'll flash, and then flash a second later. I don't know. Like I said, that could be the power source to this craft.
It actually looks more like a puffin, Aunt Jer, but that's a good observation. It does look like a puffin's head. Like this is the head.
Or
That's
it
the
could
beak.
be just some sort of a lens in there that's maybe opening and closing. Maybe it's taking photos. I have no idea. But right now, it is directly under the International Space Station at this time. That's why you can see so good down in the top of that octagon. And the reason I call that an
It's running right beside it. It's almost like it's orbiting beside it.
octagon, because you can see here these edges are straight. That's not round inside there. So I'm assuming that's some sort of a six-sided octagon. I don't think it has 8 sides. I think it has 6 sides. But there's that object. See it down in there, that white light? See it flashing?
I do see the light flashing.
And it's just random. It's not like it's on a perfect cycle. It's just randomly flashing. Super weird. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Here it is. This was above the Earth.
You can't make this stuff up because this was a real observation. It's not made up.
It may still be above the Earth, but it was visible in the ISS live cam for about 7 minutes. At original speed, it took 7 minutes to clear the field of view. This is the original speed, and I left it this way because we can get a good look down in the top of this thing. And here in just a couple seconds, you're going to see this thing kind of drift off to the left. I left it like that for a reason, so that you can clearly see it kind of amplifies the acceleration process. I don't have it in fast forward, but you can see it accelerate easier because it goes from the left-hand side of the field of view over to the right-hand side of the field of view on its own. I did not do
So it was traveling in orbit with the ISS, and then it accelerated. Gotcha.
that via editing techniques. It did it on its own because it propelled. So again, this thing has some sort of a propulsion system. Maybe this light down in here is part of its power source. I have no idea. You can see this thing here on the front sticking out. You can tell that's all by itself, and it apparently serves some sort of purpose. It almost looks like a half moon sticking out there. And then there's a small one up here. So this thing is definitely of intelligent design. There's something inside the
It is of intelligent design, he says. We'll see.
object flashing right now. Again, it's right under the International Space Station. If I had to guess, I would say this thing is somewhere between 30 and maybe 50, 60 feet wide. It's difficult to tell. It's a pretty good ways away from the space station. I am heavily zoomed in right on top of this thing as it's above the Earth on the daylight side of the Earth from October the 6th of 2022. And you're going to see this thing drift.
It is on the daylight side of the Earth. So far, he's not said anything untrue.
Almost out of the field of view over here, but it's going to come back in, and it's going to come back in on its own. It's almost like maybe it slowed down temporarily right here because I didn't adjust the frame here. I could have to keep it centered, and normally that's what I would do. But because this thing accelerated, I left it like it is. It's going to almost disappear and then come back into the field of view on its own. So it's got a propulsion system on it, and as you're going to see again here in just a second, some sort of a mysterious object following the International Space Station and then speeding away again on October 6th of 2022. And this would have been on the day
October 6th of 2022.
daylight side of the Earth. Obviously, I don't know what time. Video footage was noticed by EH, who shared the video with me. Actually sent it in yesterday, and I'm sharing it with you guys today. So it's almost out of the field of view. I'm not editing this in any way other than what you guys saw, and it's going to come back in on its own. Okay, here we go. It's coming back into the field of view via its own power, the propulsion system. See, it's accelerating. Look at that.
Yep.
Wow.
There's its
And the lights flashing down inside the craft.
And you can see
there it goes
behind it.
I'm not editing this. It is moving quicker now
Two
from
jets
left to
behind
right,
there.
and then ultimately out of the field of view, and then out in front of the space station, I suppose. But from there, that's all we can see, and it disappears. So some sort of a strange object following the space station for about 7 or 8 minutes. It was in the field of view for 7 minutes, and we can look down inside this object that has right there a flashing light inside of it. Again, you can't make this stuff up. There it was.
All right. So that was a claim about some serious craft following the ISS. So he gave us some details at which you think someone who had a channel like this would preferably do some fact checking on what exactly is being cited, and maybe look into the dates that this happened and what else was going on with the ISS specifically. Because October, let's look here. We have a 3 minutes. I keep going to stop camera. I need to do. Okay. So we are going to. All right. So latest 4-member SpaceX crew, including cosmonauts, welcomed aboard the space station October 6th. A 4-member SpaceX crew, Dragon team, including a Russian cosmonaut and the first Native American woman sent into orbit, safely docked with the International Space Station, the ISS, on Thursday. And to reiterate, Thursday, the 6th. And moved aboard to begin a 5-month science mission. Rendezvous of the latest NASA expedition to the orbiting laboratory came just after 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, following a 29-hour flight to the ISS as the two vehicles circled the globe some 250 miles above the Earth on the west coast of Africa, according to NASA's webcast of the docking. The autonomously flying Crew Dragon capsule, dubbed Endurance, was lofted into orbit on Wednesday atop a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launched from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida. The crew consisted of 2 American NASA astronauts, Flight Commander Nicole Anupa Mann, 45, and pilot Josh Casada, 49, as well as a Japanese astronaut, Koichi Wakada, 59, a veteran of 4 previous space flights, and cosmonaut Anna Kakina, 38, the first Russian aboard an American spacecraft in 20 years. The inclusion of Kikana, the lone female cosmonaut, in active service with the Russian space agency Roscosmos, was a sign of continued U.S.-Russian cooperation in space despite escalating tensions between Moscow and Washington over the war in the Ukraine. Kikina, I think I was saying that wrong before, Kikina joined the SpaceX Crew Hive flight under a new ride-sharing agreement signed in July between NASA and the Roscosmos, following the two countries to allowing the two countries to keep flying on each other's spacecrafts to and from ISS. The team was led by Mann, the first indigenous woman NASA has sent to space and the first woman to take the commander's seat of a SpaceX Crew Dragon. Mann, a U.S. Marine Corps colonel and combat fighter pilot, is also among the first group of 18 astronauts selected from NASA's upcoming Artemis mission, aimed at returning humans to the moon later this decade. We look forward to getting to work, Mann radioed moments after the link up was completed. The arrival of the Endurance crew spent nearly 2 hours conducting a series of standard procedures such as leak checks and pressurized chamber between the capsule and ISS before opening the entry hatch. A live NASA video feed showed the smiling new arrivals weightlessly floating headfirst through the padded passageway one by one into the station. They were greeted and hugged and handshaked by the 4 members of the team. They are replacing 3 Americans and the Italian station commander, Samantha Cristoforetti, uh, as well as by 2 Russians and a 4th NASA astronaut who shared Soyuz flight to the ISS last month. A lot of people are working hard to make sure our common manned space exploration will continue to exist and develop further. We are living proof of this, Kakina said in Russian remarks translated to English through a mission control interpreter during a brief welcoming ceremony. The Endurance crew marked the 5th full-fledged ISS team has flown aboard a SpaceX capsule since the private rocket venture founded by Tesla CEO Elon Musk, sending US astronauts to space in May of 2020. SpaceX has flown 8 crewed missions to orbit in all, including non-NASA flights. The new arrivals are set to conduct more than 200 experiments during their 150-day mission, many focused on medical research ranging from 3D bioprinting of human tissue to a study of bacteria cultured in microgravity. ISS, spanning the length of a football field, has been continuously occupied since 2000, operated by U.S. Russian-led partnership that include Canada, Japan, and 11 European countries. Okay, so there was a space flight, as we can see, to the ISS on October 6th aboard the Endurance, a SpaceX Dragon capsule. So let us look into the SpaceX Dragon capsule. Let's see here. We are going to pull that up now. Here we are. Okay, SpaceX Dragon capsule. This is from January 31st of 2020. So it's a bit dated, but it gives us a good image of how this capsule looks and functions. Dragon capsules are something that SpaceX has been working on for quite a few years. Anybody who follows space exploration should be kind of familiar with these. Actually, that's not giving me the good image that I wanted. Where was that? SpaceX Dragon capsule. Come on. We're gonna look it up. Yeah, here we go. So we got the SpaceX Dragon capsules. Look similar to this. If you look at this image here, this is the one that really punctuates what our friend there was seeing. This is the port. Let me see. Is there a way I can make this bigger? This is actually from October 14th. So this is about this capsule. This is actually the capsule that was captured on that video. So this is what we're looking at. Flashing lights in here. There's the black stuff they're talking about in the little nose coming off the edge. The 4th long duration astronaut team launched by SpaceX to the International ISS for NASA departed the orbiting outpost on Friday to begin their flight back to Earth, capping a science mission nearly 6 months. The 6X Crew Dragon capsule carrying 3 U.S. NASA astronauts and an Italian crewmate from the European Space Agency undocked the ISS at 12:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to embark on the return flight, expected to last nearly 5 hours. Live video showing the capsule drifting away from the station as the two vehicles soared high over the North Atlantic, showing the on NASA webcast of the undocking. Do they have that video here? Because I bet it's the same freaking video. Yeah. So yeah, not a mystery. Is a Dragon, a SpaceX Dragon capsule. So yeah, that's what we're looking at in that video. Not unfortunately not something from beyond, but that was the most recent thing that popped up for me here in Cryptic Corner, and I thought I would just bust it right out and debunk this this claim that we are capturing unidentified space debris, or perhaps unidentified spacecraft in this case, since they did comment that it was self-propelled, and we did see that. So yeah, we are definitely looking at a spacecraft, but just not the one that you think that we are looking at. Okay, so that was Cryptic Corner. If you disagree with my idea, of course, definitely leave it in the comments below. I'd love to have some friction down there regarding this topic. But I think this was pretty well debunked at this point. Again, feel free to disagree. Just let me know why. But this was, in my opinion, definitely that Dragon capsule on its way back home. So thank you for joining us for Cryptic Corner this morning. Let me start all over again. Thank you for joining us for Cryptic Corner this evening. It's actually morning here now. I'm live from the Hive, but you are watching this Friday night with Bree in the side chat, hanging out with you, and we appreciate you every one of you all come in and watch this as well. And remember to be kind. Take care, and we'll see you next time. All right. So next on the docket, we have some Creation Watch. Now, this was not, again, this just released last night, so I did not intend to cover this topic. I had something else in the works for this, actually. I just ended up going with this because it popped into my feed and it's old and funny, and I want to go through it with you. So this is the latest release from Kent Hovind official. It's not a Kent Hovind video, though. He's not, I haven't seen him in it. I watched about 2/3 of it, and he's not in it actually. So we're not actually responding to Kent Hovind. There's some other folks in this video that we're going to be dealing with, but it's creation nonsense, and it's about animals. So I am pretty stoked to dive in. So let us engage. You can tell by the ratios of the screen that this is old. This is before tube TVs went out of fashion. So this is ratioed, and I believe what is the resolution? Yeah, the resolution on this and the ratio is old timey. So we know this is pretty old stuff we're looking at. Let's go though.
Bird or fish, and ask yourself, could this really have been created through a process of evolution? Could time plus chance come together and give us all the beauty we see in the world?
Yes. All right. Thank you for joining me for Creation Watch this morning. That was Incredible Creatures. Okay. We'll watch the rest of it.
Hi, I'm David Hames, and in the next few minutes, we're going to take a close look at some animals that are going to shatter that very idea. I want to introduce you to Dr. Job Martin. Dr. Martin has had a very interesting background. He's been a college professor and a dentist. He even served on the dental.
He's a dentist. A lot of the creationist doctors that they cite are dentists. It's kind of a trend. Now, let's hear what he has to say. This, I did look this up. So, Incredible Creatures That Defy Evolution was released in 2000. And there's a sequel to it. Incredible Creatures That Defy Evolution 2 that was released in 2002.
Crew for President Johnson's Air Force One and the presidential fleet. But for the past 20 years, Dr. Martin has been lecturing students on incredible creatures that defy evolution. But it wasn't always this way. Dr. Martin, out of a scientific and medical background, once believed in the theory of evolution.
Evolution, as I was taught, it all started with a thing called the Big Bang. They say this Big Bang went kaboom, and
I am going to press X to doubt on the notion that you were taught that evolution started with the Big Bang, sir. Not if you went to a actual biology class. I am going to speculate that in your biology class for your medical credentials that they never once, not a single time, mentioned the Big Bang model of cosmic origins. I bet that they didn't even mention a biogenesis, at least not too much, as we're still in a theoretical phase of understanding that process. But they didn't teach you about the Big Bang in an evolution class.
shot out hydrogen gas mostly, and the gas somehow turned to dust, and the dust condensed down into planet Earth. The evolutionists say it started dry, and then over millions of years, volcanic activity produced the water, and then in some little pond of this water somewhere on planet Earth, these inorganic chemicals got together, and they were zapped by some kind of X-ray or something else, and all of a sudden you have this little speck of life.
So why are we saying inorganic chemicals? There were organic chemicals in prebiotic Earth. I think you're using the word organic wrong here.
And they say that was about 3.5 billion years ago. And then that little speck of life somehow over about 3 billion years became the first cell, which was somewhere around 600 million years ago. And then that progressively became beautiful you.
Dr. Martin's traditional
So
scientific
that punctuates how old this video is. We've traced life, I think, at 3.8 billion years. I think it was last time I checked. It might be 3.2. I'm not exactly sure, but it's billions of years. It's not 600 million years. When he says 600 million years ago, he's talking about the Cambrian explosion.
background would go through an evolution, rather a revolution, as he joined the staff as a professor at Baylor Dental College. This was the beginning of the evolution of a creationist.
And so in the fall of 1971, I went to Baylor in Dallas and gave my first lecture. It was on the evolution of the tooth. And I talked about how these fish scales gradually migrated into the mouth and became teeth. And a couple of my students came to me after class that day and said, Dr. Martin, have you ever investigated the claims of creation science?
I would like to understand how he refutes the obvious and clear scale origin of our teeth, because you more basally branched off groups of toothed organisms like sharks, their scales are still teeth. Their scales are just tiny versions of the teeth that are in their mouths. So it's not speculative. We can actually observe this.
Well, that was 1971. I'd never even heard of it. At that point, I'd
Hey, Maynard. Good to see you this
been a
morning.
Christian for about 5 years. And so I'm thinking to myself, where are these guys coming from? I've never heard of this. And so I said, sure, I'll look into this with you. And I'm thinking, kind of as a cocky young professor, I'll blow these guys away. Well, they asked me to start studying the assumptions that the evolutionists make. And in all my years, 8 years of scientific education, I had never had a single professor tell me about an assumption. And
So how did you learn about the scientific method without understanding what a hypothesis is? Because when you say assumption, that is, I don't have any doubt at all that what you mean, and correct me if I'm wrong. I know you can't because you're on a video from 23 years ago, but when you say assumption, you mean hypothesis. So the hypothesis is you make an observation and you say, I bet the reason why that happens is because of this. That's your assumption. That's your hypothesis. It's based on an observation, but it's still an assumption. And then you do experimentation, including building models, or making predictions to confirm that what you're seeing. We'll use your teeth as an example. Okay, so you see teeth. You see them in multiple organisms, invertebrates specifically, and we think, okay, so what are the origins of these features on our biology that help us eat? And you start looking into the organisms that split off earliest from the rest of us to see the organisms with teeth that split off from the rest of us. And you say, I predict that the most basal teeth that we find in the animal kingdom are among these organisms. And when we talk about that, obviously there are other organisms as well, like lampreys and things like that are more basal, but we're going to go with cartilaginous fish because that's a good branch, and they've been independent from the rest of the vertebrate lineage for hundreds of thousands of years. And we say, okay, so this basal group has teeth. We have teeth. So going back together, let's look at how these teeth developed. And then we note that, we do see that the scales of these more basally branched off lineage of organisms are the same, they look identical to microscopic versions of the teeth. They are produced by the same genes. So we're going to say that these are the origins of these of teeth. And then we look into the genetics of it and confirm that. So we make the prediction, and then we look into the genetics and it confirms that. That's how science works. So assumptions are the first step.
We started looking at the assumptions, and I began to realize they're making some claims here that really the assumptions aren't valid when they tell us rocks are very old and all these kinds of things. And
right, they're assumptions that start off from the beginning, and then they do experiments where they make predictions and say, hey, if this rock is this old, we should find this. I'm not a geologist or anything like that, but you aren't a geologist either. And you don't have the tools to say, yes, we are able to confirm the age of these rocks based on these metrics.
And then they asked me to start studying some animals and see if I thought that animal could evolve. Well, the first thing that we really studied together was this little bug called a bombardier beetle. And this little insect, it's about a ½ inch long, and it mixes chemicals that explode. So I began to think, okay, now how would that evolve? Let's say if evolution is true and you're evolving along here and you don't have a defense mechanism, because that is the defense mechanism of the bug. So if evolution is true, it had to somehow evolve that. So let's say it's coming along here. Well, the first time
So when it comes to the bombardier beetle, the method by which it uses to spray its volatile chemicals out are not exclusive to this beetle. It's in fact the entire family that this beetle falls into do and are not the only ones that use chemical responses to predators. Most of the time they just do it as a threat display, but yeah, they do definitely spray. So the physiological characteristics of spraying chemical at attackers is not unique to the bombardier beetle. The chemicals that are sprayed, hydroquinone, present in most beetles, but it's used to so there's stinging more that may sting, just different or that may cause skin irritation, things like that. The bombardier beetle's unique in that it has the capacity to mix and heat the chemicals, so that when they spray out, they're pretty hot. But all the mechanics were there. But we're gonna get into that.
The explosion. What does it do to the bug? Boom! You just splattered your bug. Okay, so splattered bug pieces don't evolve.
Right. So the exploding chemicals were not there in the beginning when these features first evolved in this lineage. It was just a noxious spray.
So I thought, how could this have happened? Well, it doesn't blow itself up. It has another little factory inside itself that manufactures chemicals a chemical, acts as a catalyst, so that when you squirt that chemical in with these other chemicals that are like in neutral, you get your explosion. Well, the first time it manufactured that little chemical, here it goes again, blew itself up again. But it doesn't.
This is back when Dwayne Gish's arguments about the bombardier beetle were still valid, that people were still using them. There are still people who use them now, but they're mostly like old boomer apologists like Ken Hovind. We don't actually, this is well understood. If you don't understand this process, I'm not going to rehash it here, but Tony Reed did an amazing video on the bombardier beetle. I cannot plug that video enough. It is excellent. I originally thought I was going to do a video on the bombardier beetle, but then after watching Tony Reed's, there's really no point. He covers it. He puts a nail in that coffin. So if you're interested in that topic, I will kind of gloss over it here as we go through this with this incredible creatures that defy evolution video, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I will direct you for full details on the evolution of those chemical compositions and the way that they're released from the beetle and all the physiological steps that took place in the evolution of this organism to allow for it to produce this heated, noxious chemical are well accounted for in the beetle's lineage.
Why? Well, because it has like an asbestos-lined firing chamber. And even then it would blow itself up if it didn't have somewhere for the explosion to go. So it has like twin tail tubes. And it can aim these tail tubes all the way up, out the side, out the front. Let's say a spider is coming up toward its side and it doesn't have time to turn around.
I like squirt. I like squirt is like a grapefruit soda.
Shoot. It can just take its little gun turret, aim it out there and shoot. The explosion on this little bug, all you hear, if you're listening as a human, you hear this pop. But scientists have now put that explosion in slow motion. And it's like about 1,000 sequential little explosions, but they're so fast, all we hear is one pop. And so you think, well, now, why would that be? Well, that was a curious thing for the scientists that study this little bug. A lot of them at Cornell University, some other places. And what they discovered was that if it was just one big pop, the little bug, if he's shooting like a spider, let's say over here, and he goes bang and shoots it, he's going to pop himself right out of there. It's like lighting a burner on a jet engine. So he's out of there. But as long as it is a sequential explosion with his little legs, he can hang on. How would evolution explain a sequential explosion?
Because the beetles that did the sequential explosion were more successful than the ones who did the single explosion. This is such a weird argument about why. Because the ones that it worked with are the ones that passed on their genes, sir. They are not. The ones that didn't don't get to send those forward.
This little bug messes with all the theories of evolution. There is no way a slow, gradual process is going to produce this bug. There's no way.
Why not?
Even the newest theories of evolution, like punctuated equilibrium, which means evolution happens very fast.
Oh, we're going to talk about Gould.
Well, there's no way that will explain this little bug.
All right, so hold on. He just mentioned punctuated equilibrium. Now I have to give what Darth Dawkins would call a community college lecture. But that was not a good Darth Dawkins impression. I don't think I could do a Darth Dawkins impression. I'm not pretentious, snobby, or narcissistic enough for that. But so punctuated equilibrium is about niche vacuuming. So there are two methods which organisms evolve. There's gradualism and punctuated equilibrium. Gradualism is in a stable environment or semi-stable environment where an organism is stable and healthy and able to maintain populations, will experience slight modification in genetic groups over a geographic range. These are usually epigenetic expressions that take hold in a population due to environmental factors. Nothing big. You don't see a lot of changes in that. Now, punctuated equilibrium is when an extinction event, whether global or local, alters the environment, that no longer supports the organisms that were initially evolved and adapted to live in that environment, and they are wiped out. New generalist organisms move into the environment and take advantage of the resource availability, and they essentially fill that role and evolve over generations somewhat rapidly to specialize in consuming the available resources that were vacated from that environment. That is punctuated equilibrium, and it's demonstrable, especially when you look at places like the Galapagos Islands. That's a good example of punctuated equilibrium, because different groups became highly specialized very recently and quickly adapted and evolved to a variety of resources to reduce competition with one another, but to cover all available niches and resource availability.
How could this particular little animal, for instance, evolve? It needed all of its parts. It needed everything there all at once, or you just don't have the animal.
It didn't need everything all there at once. There are a lot of beetles that do not produce the hot explosive chemicals. Some of them just produce the chemicals. Some of them produce chemicals with other qualities, like I said before, that may be noxious or pungent or even volatile to the touch. So
my stomach started to churn, if I really want to be honest. And my wife would tell you, my stomach churned for 5 years. It took a 5-year struggle for me to begin to flip the way I think, from thinking in an evolutionary way to thinking in more, this animal or little creature, little bug, whatever, was created fully formed, just like it is.
Yep, just mysterious ways, Maya.
Did you know the world's strongest animal is actually the beetle? In fact, in one test, the rhinoceros beetle carried over 850 tons.
Did you just ask me if I knew that the strongest organisms on this earth were beetles, sir? I am Bumblebee, previously known as Brain Bug, and I know all the bug stuff.
Times its own weight on its back. That would be like me trying to carry 130,000 pounds. I don't think so. Now let's take a look at the world's tallest animal.
Well, you're talking about a square cubed law there with that. A beetle at your scale would not be able to lift that amount. It just physiological forces. The square cube law is basically that for every time you double the physical size in order to maintain a balance in the mass, that the mass multiplies times 4. So size goes up 2 times, the mass goes up 4 times. That's the square cube law. So a beetle would not, at our scale, would not be as strong as they are on the micro scale.
A bull giraffe is about 18 feet tall. In order to get blood up that long, skinny neck against gravity, the bull giraffe has to have a powerful pump, and that's his heart. And the heart of a bull giraffe can be as much as 2.5 feet long. Big, powerful pump. Now, as he's going along here, living his life, everything's just fine. But all of a sudden, this 18-foot tall creature decides, I need a drink of water. So he bends his head down to get a drink of water. Now we have a problem. Because now this powerful pump, instead of pumping against gravity, is pumping with gravity. And so the heart gives a mighty squeeze, and the blood shoots down his neck, hits his brain, and bursts his brain. And so now he just blew his brains out. Okay, so he's dying, and he must be thinking to himself, I need to evolve something here to take care of my problem. When I get a drink of water, I blow my brains out.
Does he think animals say, oh, I'm going to consciously evolve this direction? Is that the claim?
Of course, we know dead creatures don't evolve, but he doesn't blow his brains out, because as he bends his head down, there are like little spigots in his artery that goes up the neck, little valves, and they close. But the last pump is beyond the last valve. And so it's enough to burst the little arterioles in his brain, but it doesn't go into his brain. The last pump kind of goes whoop underneath the brain into like a sponge. And this sponge just gently expands, and he hasn't blown his brains out, and he gets his drink of water. And now he sees a zebra kind of running up from this side, and he just ignores it. But he sees a lion coming up from this side. And, oh, the lion wants to eat me. I got to get out of here. Now, how does he know the difference, by the way? Evolutionists can't explain that to us. But the fact is, here comes this lion.
Did you just say evolutionists can't explain why the giraffe is afraid of a zebra and not a lion, or knows the difference between a zebra and a lion? Yeah, because the giraffes that didn't know the difference between a zebra and a lion didn't pass on their genes. So only the giraffes that could tell the difference between a zebra and a lion are the ones that were successful. It's kind of begging the question.
Going to eat the giraffe. And so the giraffe jumps up. He runs about 5 steps, passes out. Not enough oxygen to his
Morning,
brain.
Logan Fisher.
While he's there, passed out. The lion is eating it. He must be thinking, I need to evolve something here. I got this problem. I pass out when I get up too fast. But he doesn't, of course. Well, why? Well, because God made him so that when he begins to bring his head up, the little spigots, the little valves in the artery opened. The sponge under the brain gently squeezes that last little pump of oxygenated blood up into his brain. There are little valves in the vein that goes down the neck. They close. And by the time he's up and running, everything is fine. His blood pressure is fine, and he does just fine. Well, how would that evolve? He needs all of those parts, all there, all at the same time, all at once.
So there are other giraffids that have these arteries in their necks that don't have giant 9-foot long necks. The reason the giraffe's neck is so long is actually more relative to its legs. The giraffe has the shortest neck in relative size to its legs than any ungulate, any other hooved animal, both live and fossilized. There are definitely some contenders. There were some long-necked camels that came really close to having the same condition, but the giraffe takes the cake. But there are even living other organisms that are related to giraffes. The okapi, for instance, which does have a relatively long neck by human standards, that has this same artery system in its neck to help regulate blood flow to its brain as it lifts up and down to drink. These features can also be found in equids and horses. And as I mentioned before, camelids, antelopes, a whole lot of artiodactyls and perseodactyls too. Like I said, horses did have these artery features to help them help their brain balance from drinking to standing upright. They do need to be able to react quickly. Giraffes not so much as some of these smaller organisms that need to be able to react quickly, but because the giraffes have few natural predators. Even I don't think the giraffe would necessarily be afraid of a single lion, or maybe a pride of lions might give pause. And perhaps a mother giraffe or a young giraffe might have some issues with that. Regardless, these features are not unique to the giraffe. They're not specific to the giraffe. The giraffe does have a lot of physiological characteristics to help with its extra long neck. The long neck, long thought to have been developed in order to aid in feeding on the highest grazing spots, is actually more recent research has shown that it's likely more derived from interspecific conflict between rival males. So they would giraffes and giraffids in general compete for females by neck wrestling and bashed each other with their heads like a flail. Other giraffes and giraffids do this too. There was an extinct clade of giraffes that actually did the headbutting thing, more like a Pachycephalosaurus or a Rocky Mountain sheep, where they crashed heads together repeatedly to compete for mating rights. But in general, the giraffe's long neck is a result of mating, sexual selection.
Or he's dead. And so I think the giraffe is another example of a designer. He needed a designer to design him just like he is.
The tallest giraffe known was named George. He resided at the Chester Zoo in England. George was 20 feet tall to the tips of his horns, which are actually called ossicones. Here's another interesting giraffe fact. Giraffes have no vocal cords. Now here's a bird you'll see around your house, but after taking a closer look at it, you might find it unbelievable.
The woodpecker is a very special little bird. The beak of a woodpecker is like industrial strength. It is stronger than other birds' beaks. He has special feet. Most birds have 3 toes.
Yet it's still made of chitin. Interesting that.
Toes out the front, 1 toe out the back. Woodpecker has 2 toes out the front, 2 toes out the back, and that's so he can climb around on a tree trunk, a vertical tree trunk, right side up, upside down, sideways.
And that's not unique to woodpeckers either. A lot of birds have zygodactyl legs. That's where, okay, so they have the 3 or 4 or normal. This is the standard. This is the passer rate. So ignore my pinky because that's not there. We're going to talk about just this. Okay, actually, let me put this down. Okay, so zygodactyl is, so this is, I had this pulled up here just a second. There was, okay, so this is, you can ignore my pinky. This is anisodactyly, where you got the 3 toes forward, 1 toe backwards. That's the standard. So he's wrong about that. Most birds do not have 3 toes. They have 4, 3 forward, 1 backwards. That's standard. Passer songbirds, birds of prey, eagles and falcons and stuff. They have this formulation of their toes. However, zygodactyly is when this one, the ring finger and the thumb, are facing backwards, and these fingers are 2 and 3 are facing forward. So that is zygodactyly, and that's what you see in woodpeckers, but also parrots, some owls, and cuckoos, including the roadrunner, which is peculiar because it doesn't hop around on the side of trees at all. It runs. So yeah, there are other formulations of toes, and there are 3-toed birds as well. They're just not very common. There's a 2-toed bird actually. The ostrich has reduced its feet down to just the 2 toes, so it doesn't have either. I think it has just 2 and 3. So the ostrich just has 2 and 3. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Sorry, I keep info dumping.
They're more resilient. They're spongy, and they're very strong and tough because he tripods himself with his 2 feet and his tail feathers, so that he grabs a hold of that tree, fans out his tail feathers, and then bangs his head into the tree. Now, you would think that a woodpecker would go home every night and say to Mrs. Woodpecker, "Oh, I got this headache. I was banging my head on a tree all day." But he doesn't. Why? Because God made him with special equipment. For instance, between his beak and his skull, there's a piece of cartilage. It acts as a shock absorber. His skull is the thickest bone per body weight of any creature. As a matter of fact, brain surgeons study the brains of woodpeckers, how they're hooked in there and everything, to help them with like trauma people in accidents, that they need to put their brains back in there. And so they study woodpeckers. The woodpecker, with his strong skull and his shock absorber and his strong beak and his tail feathers and his feet, he's all ready to go, except for one thing. Once he drills his hole, he's got to get that bug out of the tree because that's lunch. All right, well, how's he going to do that? Well, most birds, their tongue goes right to the tip of the beak.
It seems like the argument is either this one feature could not evolve. Well, this one feature could not evolve naturally, or this suite of features could not evolve naturally because it needed all the pieces to be in place. This is essentially Behe's irreducible complexity argument. But there are other. Again, this is he's depending on ignorance of the audience to not know about bird classification. There are other groups in the woodpecker family that actually are intermediate with some of these features. Flickers, for instance, are a specific group of woodpeckers that are sort of intermediate between. Let me see. This is Piscini tribe, which is the true woodpeckers. And then, so initially the tapping of a woodpecker is not necessarily to to make the hole. That's a lot of misconception. What they are doing is actually using observation. They are doing sonic location when they do those faster. They're looking for hollow spaces underneath the wood to pull the insect larva out. They do leave little divots in there, but generally they're not driving their beak like a nail into the wood. The main goal is to detect the location of food, and they do kind of peck and poke to get the food out, definitely. But it's the chisel idea of how they access their food. There may be some misunderstandings there, because the that you hear when a woodpecker, that is not when they're going after it. That's when they're trying to locate it. Usually, what you hear when they're actually getting the food is more like tapping and cracking of the bark. Anyway, fun little bird classification. But within that clade, there are other bird groups. We have wrynecks, and we have piculates and sapsuckers that are all in this group that have some of the features or intermediate levels of the features, or those same features but less specialized than the specific group of woodpecker. Even honey guides are in this group. Now, honey guides are not even feeding on trees generally. So a lot of these features are not unique to the woodpecker, and our friend here in the video is depending on you not knowing that. So this is the problem of nested cladistics in suites of traits. We actually trace those traits down through lineages of different birds so that we can classify them specifically. Heck, we get back far enough into this group, you're getting into toucans and things like that. With some of these same physiological features. It's wild that you're pointing this out as specific to woodpeckers.
A woodpecker's tongue goes as much as 10 inches out of his beak. Now, why? Well, because he's going to drill the hole, find the bug tunnel down in the tree, stick his tongue down in the tunnel, and drag the bug out. Now, you would have to say, could I stick my tongue down a hole in a tree and drag a bug out? Of course not. Well, how does the woodpecker do that? Well, God made the woodpecker with little barbs on the tip of his tongue, and he will literally stab that bug larva down in there because it doesn't want to come out. But in case that's not enough, he has a little glue factory in his tongue that manufactures precisely the right glue to stick to the bug, but it doesn't stick to his beak. And so
a factory. Where's Otangelo at when you hear that? Sorry, cough again, just a second. This cough is going to be the death of me. A glue factory in his tongue.
So he pulls that bug into his mouth. Now we have a problem. If evolution is true, let's say over hundreds of thousands of years, this woodpecker got all this equipment, and then he glues his tongue to a bug and he swallows the bug. What just happened to his tongue? He just swallowed his tongue. He dies. He just strangled himself. Okay, but he doesn't. Why? Well, because as he brings the bug into his mouth, he has another little factory that manufactures the solvent to dissolve the glue.
Hey, fun fact about solvents. Water is a solvent. Water is one of the most common solvents, and in fact, any solvent you use likely is mostly water. So having like this is like sap off of a tree because it's water soluble, and it can disintegrate when exposed to water. So essentially, the salivatory glands of the woodpecker dissolve the stickiness of that's on the tongue. It's not as magical as he's making it sound.
So he dissolves the glue, loosens up the bug, swallows the bug. God made him that way. Woodpeckers, when they peck, they open their eyes between each peck, and they aim their beak, they focus, they aim their beak, they close their eyes, and then they hit the tree. So you hear a woodpecker out there, he's going, drr, drr. Every time you hear that, drr, in between each peck, he opens it.
Oh, honey, you missed the bombardier beetle. It was the very first one that they covered in this video. This is from 2000, but Hovind released it last night, like it's up to date. In a coherent 2022 argument. Was released in 2000 though, so this is a 22-year-old video with a lot of debunked stuff. I did suggest Tony Reed's bombardier beetle video. If you haven't watched that, Logan Fisher, I strongly recommend that. Tony Reed did a great video on it. He's the reason I haven't done a video on the bombardier beetle. Why waste my time when his is freaking amazing? Yeah. And even the megalodon ate seaweed. Yeah, but that's what its sharp teeth was for, is for cutting the seaweed. But the seaweed was like, yes, cut me. It wasn't like, you're hurting me.
His eyes, focuses, aims his beak, hits the tree. Why? Well, they used to think it was just to keep the wood chips out. But now the scientists have measured the force of the impact of the woodpecker's head against the tree.
This part's true, and I like this part.
And the force is so great that if he did not close his eyes, he would pop his eyeballs out. So I would say, have you ever seen a blind woodpecker? No, they never miss. They never miss. Okay. Now, one special woodpecker, the European green woodpecker. I think he's unique in all the animal kingdom. I don't know for sure, but I think he might be. His tongue is different than any other tongue.
Yeah, the part about the eyes, though, that's true. If a woodpecker kept its eyes open while it was doing its thing, its eyes would pop out. Fun stuff.
Tongue, as far as I know. Our tongue starts in the back of our throat, comes up and out the front. His tongue starts in the back of his throat, goes down the throat, comes out the back of his neck, up over the top of his head. It's under the skin, comes out a little hole between his eyes, goes in one of his nostrils, and then comes out of his beak. And you would have to say, now, how does that evolve? I've asked evolutionists that question. I've said, now you tell me, how and where did that tongue come from? They don't have a clue.
What do you mean they don't have a clue? Natural selection. It needed a longer tongue because it was apparently it was in a ecological environment that required it to reach deep down into the trees to get the bugs. I don't know if it was specific species of ash borer grub that it was after that dived deep into the heartwood, something like that it was after. Was it after some insect that went to the heartwood that it needs to go deep into the tree to retrieve it? But yeah, as the natural forces of the environment acted upon the organism, the ones that were able to achieve the goal of getting the grubs inside of the tree were the ones that passed on their genes. This is just evolution and how natural selection works, my friend.
They can't tell me. I'm saying, well, you're telling me that this bird evolved from some other creature, but there's no other creature that we know of with a
From another bird with a slightly shorter tongue.
Tongue like that. How did that happen? They don't have any idea. So what could I say as a creationist? I would say God made that little woodpecker, and I think he made that woodpecker to challenge the evolutionary community, because as they study that little bird, they know there is no way this little thing could evolve. But it goes right back.
Well, again, we have a lineage, though, and here's the thing: when you're denying evolution, so you're like, oh, so this emerald woodpecker is its own kind? Is that the claim here, or is it in the woodpecker kind with the other woodpeckers? If so, did God make the other woodpeckers and this woodpecker just like side by side, and are they related to each other? And if not, and some of these woodpecker species, and even species beyond woodpeckers that are just in the same family, may be able to reproduce interspecifically. So we'd have some hybrids between two different kinds. Is that the claim that you're making here? Where is the line with birds? Because you say birds as if it's something we should all know what it is. So, but birds are not a kind. There are different kinds of birds. So what is birds? Is that some kind of classification? Are none of the birds related to each other? And which birds, like we're talking about woodpeckers, for instance, are all woodpeckers one kind? Or are there different kinds of woodpeckers? What about the honey guide? Because they're related to them. And some of the honey guides have features that are indistinguishable from woodpeckers. Some birds that are called flickers are actually woodpeckers, and some woodpeckers are actually flickers. And they just the common names interchange, but genetically speaking, they're closer related to other the one flicker is closely related to woodpeckers than it is to other flickers, for instance, because that's a common name, but genetically speaking, they're the same clades. So how does the the creationist model divide these organisms up, which ones are kinds and how many, if we're talking about saying this individual species of woodpecker was its own kind, I can find features among countless other clades of organisms that you would say are all the same kind. That then we delve into those physiological features. You're saying those are going to have to be designed because they couldn't evolve independently, but they are not present in other groups that you would consider within the same kind. And that doesn't make any sense to me. So I would love to get some clarification on this model and how it divides things up.
Back to that Romans 1 passage, that as men study the creation, it says they study what God has made. Because they are unrighteous, they will suppress evidence. They will hold back evidence. And I think that's exactly what happened. I
don't feel like the evidence is being held back. I think you're misinterpreting the evidence or any kind of gaps in our knowledge about the way things have happened, or anything where we have to say for instance, the ancestor between this group and this group looked like this. We don't have any fossils of it, or it probably looked like this. That is inference that is made just in phylogenetic classification, even in real time.
There are very bright people who study science and do a good job of it. But all of a sudden they get to a point where they have to decide, did this thing happen over long periods of time somehow? Or, boy, it sure looks like it could have happened just bang, just like it is. And then if they discover, hey, I have no way of describing this thing in terms of evolutionary science, they're faced with the other option, which is maybe a designer and a creator, and they say, I don't want to go that way. Okay. So they suppress that.
So, like, you give a dichotomy like that, like either it was designed, or life on Earth was designed, or it wasn't. It was either designed by God or it wasn't. And this is where that often misquoted or cherry picked presentation by Dawkins when he was on that Ben Stein interview where he talked about panspermia. So yeah, there are a few different places in between that we can visit before between abiogenesis on Earth and God. There's a lot of options in between. It's not a dichotomy.
That evidence. And so many of the things that I studied, we had to search just to find information on them because they are not in the textbooks. They just don't put them in because they have no way to explain it. And so they just ignore it.
Another bird that got Dr. Martin's attention lives down under, mate, in Australia.
There's a little bird in Australia. It's called the Australian incubator bird. Some people call it the mound builder. Sometimes it's called the brush turkey. And there's different species. We'll talk about one in particular. But
I wouldn't say they're a little bird. They're pretty big.
This little bird, about 3.5 to 4 pounds. The female has 2 jobs. Her first job is to check out the nest and see if it's going to be okay. The male builds the nest, and then the female checks it out. Now you would say, well, big deal. She's going to check out the nest. Well, this nest is not like any other nest. Some of these nests have been measured at 20 feet across and as much as 50 feet high. And some of them dig down into the dirt 3 to 6 feet. So it's like a huge, that's why they're called the mound builders. It's like a huge mulch pile.
This is sexual selection. Like how, just for instance, like, we as women wear makeup to look attractive for our potential sexual partners or whatever. It's the same difference. And I know men can wear makeup too. I'm just making a rough analogy here, but organisms do the same. It's not always a physical characteristic of an animal's body that it uses to try to convince a mate that it's a viable partner. And in the case of the megapode, which is what we're looking at here, called an Australian brush turkey. Yeah, but it's a megapode. It is building these amazing nests. It's like I am able to provide for you. Look at this fantastic nest, and it gets to the extreme where they're doing these extreme actions to impress these females. It just escalates so that now they're building these huge structures to impress their mates. It's kind of funny, and she's very picky about what she likes in the nest. But you'll see you'll see characteristics like that in other birds as well. There's some elaborate dancing that some birds have to do. Some of course, building fantastic nests is always a quality that a female bird will look for in a viable mating partner.
So she comes and she digs down in there, and she comes out and says to Mr. Bird, I don't like this one. And so he says, okay, hang on for a couple months. I'll build you another one. Okay, so he builds her another one. Let's say she likes this one. Now she goes to job number 2, and that is she lays eggs. Now she lays 1 egg every 3 days for 7 months. And it's a little 3.5 to 4 pound bird, and the eggs are almost a ½ pound each. They're almost as big as an ostrich egg. Impossible. She's dead. I mean, you can't do that. Okay, but she does now. This one species.
Why can't you do that? Do you know about how big a kiwi's egg is? Kiwis have such massive eggs that they take up the majority of their torso cavity when they're developed.
The female makes a very thick shell on the egg. And it has pores. All birds' eggs have pores. That's how they breathe. But this one, the pores are shaped like little ice cream cones. And the tip of the ice cream cone is in toward the inside of the shell. So as the chick begins to develop inside the shell, he gets to a certain day and he can't get enough air. He's going, I can't get enough air. And so he begins to scrape off the inside layer of the shell. And that makes the holes bigger. He's going up the ice cream cone. So now he can breathe. And so he does that all the way along till he finally breaks out of the shell. Now, the male bird takes care of the nest. The female.
I don't understand why this is not something that can happen naturally. A lot of animals have very specific reproductive behaviors.
Once she lays the eggs, she just goes off, and now he takes care of the nest. Now, you would say, well, is that a big problem? Well, yes, because each species has some different qualifications for the nest. And this one I'm going to talk about, the male keeps the nest at 91 degrees Fahrenheit for 7 months. And if it varies by much more than a degree on either side of 91 degrees Fahrenheit, the chicks die. So daddy bird is out there every day. He digs down into the nest and he checks the temperature, and And scientists aren't even exactly sure how he does the temperature. But he checks the temperature. Oh, it's 92 degrees. It's too hot. I got to do something. So he runs back up, and sometimes he'll throw sand.
I would say he would check the temperature the same way that any organism that has tactile temperature gauging would check the temperature.
And on top to try and reflect more sunlight, or he has various things he'll do. He also keeps that nest at about 99.5% humidity. If it gets down to about 80%, the chicks dry out, the eggs dry out. He has to keep it at roughly 99% humidity. So 91 degrees Fahrenheit, 99% humidity. That's impossible for a little 3.5 pound.
It is not impossible, because the ones that couldn't do it didn't survive. Only the ones that can do it survived. You're begging the question. Why is this possible? Because the ones that couldn't do it didn't survive. Stop begging the question.
4 pound bird.
Mr. Lizard, you missed Bombardier beetle too. This is from 2000, so this is before Bombardier beetle had been thoroughly debunked. So yes, at the very beginning of this video, the very first animal that we went over, the incredible creatures that defy evolution here, was the Bombardier beetle. So if you missed it, you can go back and check that out. You can go back and check that out. We went through quite a few so far. What we talk about? We talked about bombardier beetles, giraffes, woodpeckers. There was something else, but yeah. Anyway, we're going to keep moving.
Hatches out of its egg. It has all of its feathers. As far as I know, it's the only bird that it's ready to fly, but it can't fly because it's down deep in a big mulch pile. Now, nobody feeds this little bird. Dad doesn't feed the bird. Mommy bird doesn't feed the little baby. They come out of the egg, and then they somehow know, I got to get out of here. So they turn over on their back,
Yeah, that's the standard rule for organisms. We don't we are more of an exception that we need parental care. Most animals do not need parental care when they're born. The majority of life on this planet requires no parental care to teach it how to feed itself or to be successful in the environment. Among vertebrates, it is more common to offer parental care. Among mammals, it's even more common. In birds, is usually it's birds. It's pretty standard to take care of your young. But let's hear what he has to say.
And they begin to scrape the sticks and leaves on top of them, and it'll drop down on their chest, and they shake it off their chest, pack it down with their little wings, dig some more, falls down, shake it off, pack it down. It takes up to 3 days for them to dig out of the nest. And nobody told them to do that. Nobody told them to go. Which way? Which way do I go? But how do they know that? You see, well, evolution can't explain those kinds of things.
Because the ones who don't dig out of the nest don't survive. So only the genetics of the ones who know to dig out of the nest are passed on. It's epigenetic. I don't know. I don't understand why this is so confusing for you. And again, you're begging the question by saying, how can they do this? Because the ones who couldn't do it didn't survive.
All right, so here it comes. He's out of the nest. Nobody shows it what to eat. He goes off. He knows what to eat. He knows how to catch it and find it. And then the next year, the male bird is going to build a nest. But daddy bird didn't show him how. He starts building a mound all by himself. Nobody showed him.
Because you don't just pass on physiological characteristics to your offspring. You also pass on behavioral characteristics to your offspring.
How to do it. It's a miracle. It's just a miracle.
No, it's evolution. Again, you think that that only physical features get passed on, everything else has to be taught, but that's just not the case. It's not a miracle that the spider knows how to build a web without its mom ever teaching it how.
And so you look at even something like a little Australian incubator bird and you say, how could that evolve? If
It's so funny because you went all the way to Australia and picked this select group of megapods to focus on, but yeah, spiders are more of a definitely represent this behavior, and there are clades of spiders that even have their babies underground that dig their way out when they're born, or when they're hatched. So there's other ways to look at it. I think because spiders are a little too alien, and you're like, oh, but they have these behavioral drivers as well to know how to build a nest and get food without anybody ever teaching them.
If this story of evolution is true, how could that happen? I say, only God can do that.
Here's something most of us pull out of the icebox every morning.
If you take an egg and you put it in warm water, you will see bubbles coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why do you see those bubbles? Well, because there's little holes all through the egg shell.
Right.
About 10,000 actually in a chicken shell.
Mm-hmm.
Those holes are there so that the chick can breathe, because that's where he gets his air, through those holes, so they can get the waste out of the shell, because the chick, as he develops, is going to eat the yolk, and the yolk, as he burns it up, there's waste products, there's water and different things given off, and he has to be able to get the waste out of the shell, or for instance, just the amount of water that's given off, he would drown right there in the shell. How do you explain all the intricate mechanisms and the perfect timing that it takes for an egg to develop, making this whole thing happen? Because every step of the way, the chick would be dead. Everything has to be done on a particular day.
All of those steps are as we go back through the development of eggs, especially hard-shelled eggs, we can step by step go back through and see how these features developed.
And in a particular order, and the timing has to be exactly right, or you have a dead chick. If you have ever boiled an egg or eaten a hard-boiled egg, you'll notice when you peel the egg, there's like that little membrane in there. And that membrane has to be there. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But on one end of the egg, it's flat. And it looks like the chicken didn't quite fill the egg. Well, that's a special place. That's called the air sac. And so now we take all these parts and we put them together and we have this little fertilized egg. And now this little chick is developing. By the 5th day,
Chickens didn't evolve egg production de novo. It's not a new characteristics that they evolved independently. This is the egg laying goes all the way back to when animals first really the egg laying is kind of the standard. I know that reproduction has a lot of variety, but at least among tetrapods specifically, egg laying is the basic. So before we even came onto land, before birds' ancestors even came onto land, they were producing eggs already.
its little heart is pumping. Blood vessels have grown.
He's a dentist, GeoSam. Yeah. Most of these guys that they cite are have some kind of credentials similar to that, like a dentist or what have you. Don't tell him that hard-shelled eggs came from members of Dinosauria. Well, then they're still members of Dinosauria. Chickens are members of Dinosauria.
Grown out of the chick. 2 of them go up, hook into the membrane. And those are the ones that it's going to breathe through. It'll get its air through that. The air comes through the pores or the holes in the shell up to the membrane. And then
yeah, it would have been a fish. Fish is a funny term. It's like monkey or ape. It's polyphyletic. It means members of this group to the exclusion of that. So it's a layman's term. It doesn't actually work well in science to say fish. But yeah, hold on. You said invertebrate fish. So fish are vertebrates. There are no invertebrate fish. There are ancestors with what they call a notochord. It's like the you're fine. The notochord is like the prerequisite to developing a vertebrate, which is just essentially a calcified notochord of nerves, just with a calcified structure around it. So there are ancestral organisms that have notochords that maybe during the even during, I think it was during the Cambrian, Maison Creek. I can't remember what the time period of that is, but yeah, those organisms with notochords that may have been early vertebrates, or yeah, there you go. We are all jawed fish. Yeah. So if you use the word fish to be synonymous with Sarcopterian fish, let me try that again. Sarcopterygian. That having the wing word in there. See the PTER. That means wing. It's about the way that our lobe-finned fish, where we don't have rays. So that having that in there, you don't always pronounce the P. I kept trying to pronounce that. Lungfish are an exception, I think. Yeah, but that's a secondary loss of characteristics, isn't it? Yeah, if you want fish to be a monophyletic, it contains everything commonly considered a fish. It would also include every vertebrate, absolutely. Isn't his expertise in teeth and not evolutionary science? Yeah, but he was talking earlier about, here we go, Sarcopterygian. Yeah, Sarcopterygian. Thank you, Monkey for Banana. I was stumbling all over the place with that word. But yeah, the tear part, you do say the P in that. I would say the P sound in that there. Is it not sarcopta? Because generally with PTERI, it's Terry. Or PTER, not the I, sorry, it's tear, like pterodon or pterodactyl, or which means wings. Anyway, yeah. So regardless, let's move on. Thank you guys for popping in. Appreciate the clarification on that.
The membrane transfers the oxygen to the artery, the vein that goes into the chick, and then the other vessel that hooks into that gets rid of the waste. And so there's a process there.
I've just noticed the background music sounds really like a like softcore porn music.
Things coming in and things going out of the shell. Two more blood vessels hook into the yolk, and that's the way the chick eats. And as he lives in this shell, he begins to get to where he's too big and he can't get enough air. And it's now the 19th day.
So copterygian.
Now, during this time,
Gotcha.
he has grown a little tooth on top of his beak. It's called the egg tooth. Now, most of us grow our teeth inside our mouth, not on our.
See, Geo Salmon, you were worried he wasn't going to talk about teeth. He's talking about the egg tooth right now. What dentist does not spend hours of their doctoral study examining egg tooth?
Beak, but the little chick has this little egg tooth. And on the 19th day, he takes that and he pokes a little hole into that flat end of the egg where the air is. That's called the air sac. And now he has 6 hours to breathe. Now, if we're swimming and we're on the bottom of the swimming pool and we've run out of air and we get up to the top and I just made it. We usually just sit there and lean there and get some good air and breathe a while. Well, not the chick, because if he got into that air sac, I mean, he's going, I can't get enough air. And he pecks into that on the 19th day, not one day sooner or one day later, or it's dead. It's the 19th day, goes into that sac. Now he's got 6 hours. Now, is he going to just sit there and breathe that air? Or is he going to say, I need to do something else with this air, which is what he says. I've got to get a little hole.
He doesn't say anything because he's a chicken, but he is going to. These are things that evolved. Again, the ones that couldn't do this didn't pass on their genes. So only the ones that can. This whole video has been begging the question about the complexity of life. Of course, then we got the Behe argument of irreducible complexity, which obviously you saw with the bombardier beetle towards the beginning there. But
and use this 6 hours of air. I got 6 hours to peck a little hole through the shell. And now he breathes from the 19th to the 21st day through this little hole in the shell. On the 21st day, that's the day he breaks out of the shell. Now, in the meantime, the systems that hook into the membrane and the systems that hook into the yolk, all of those little vessels, they begin to disattach or deattach themselves. And when he comes out of the shell, sometimes he might have a blood vessel hanging on him somewhere or something like that. But the fact is, these things, it's like he's dropped his spacesuit off and he is ready to go. And so he comes out of that shell on the 21st day. But every single step along the way had to have perfect timing. It had to be done exactly right. And when he comes out,
it's almost as if theropods have spent hundreds of millions of years perfecting this process, and the ones that could do this passing on their genes and the ones that could not dying off. It's almost like that happened.
He's a discrete entity. There's no mistake. This is a chick. All we see in all of nature, in the fossil record and in living creatures, is just discrete, identifiable. We can label them. That's a cow. That's a chicken. And so I think that's more evidence that God made everything, including little chicks, just exactly like they are.
All right, we're going to stop right there for this video. Just because we're past the 2 hour mark now. I generally like to keep the show under 2 hours. It makes it so that everything's kind of uniformed on the production end of things. So in editing into things. So we're gonna end that right now. Now, since our housekeeping did take quite a bit of time, I am not going to be doing a HiveScience video for this stream. I may double up next week just to supplement that, or I may not, or I may triple up. Who knows? Depends on what I find that I want to talk about. But I may revisit the other half of this video. There's a part 2 to this too that Hovind didn't release yet, but I'm sure we could find a copy of it if you guys wanted to dive into it. However, yeah, I'm going to call this a live from the Hive ending here. So this was our creation watch as released by Kent Hovind Official, Incredible Creatures That Defy Evolution. Amazing movie. Oh yeah, I'm still ratioing you, Hovind. I don't know if y'all saw that or not, but it has 2,962 views. Mine is, where is it? Where is it? How am I doing? I'm just checking on that because my little clip video went viral. Kind of. Oh, did it go viral? I don't know if for a short, if 9,000 views is viral or not. I'm not going to complain about it. Yeah, it's still at 9K. It looks like, but it was a 7-second video, just silly 7-second silly video. I'm not saying I had the same audience or anything. I'm just joking about it, ratioing him. But I, with my little less than 800 subscriber channel, I am pulling 9K on a video of a spider between my boobs. It's pretty funny. Anyway, please remember to be kind, take care, and we will see you next time.